Yasson.
Danny.
How are we?
I feel good. I feel really good.
Do you?
I do, actually, because, like, for the first time since 2021, I'm looking at the backlog. I'm looking at my job as a whole. Like, this seems to be the most organized that my business has ever been. Doesn't necessarily feel like that because of, external things like the summit and stuff. Like, if we didn't have this podcast and the summit, I'd literally be twiddling my thumbs at the minute with like the amount of work that I've got. I'm looking at, yes, there's weddings from this year that I've still got to deliver. But this is the first time since 2021 where I confidently go like, I can see myself staying in single figures for the foreseeable.
What, backlog wise?
Yeah.
Oh, easily, especially with Bride and Groom helping out.
Yeah. So it's like things feel on that end, I don't feel stressed from that.
It's a good feeling that though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you always get to this point. I remember this time last year, I got down to single figures, and then I had an absolute wild like April. I think last April I had
That's when we started the podcast.
Yeah. I think I had 8 weddings last April, and that just kind of like shot it straight up.
Yeah,
things are kind of a bit more spaced out this year. That was, I guess pricing structure and just the way things worked out. My weddings never seem to be too heavy at any one point.
Yeah.
And of course, with the baby on the way in summer, there's not so many weddings happening in summer. So, yeah.
I find that as well, actually. See, this year, like, because I've got too many in May, but like mine seem to be like quite heavily congested, like in spring and in autumn this year. Mm-hmm. But my summer's like actually quite quiet. Like,
yeah.
I've still got the same amount of weddings, so I'm not down on the amount of weddings, but just when I looked at it and I went, like when you get an inquiry in like Studio Ninja or whatever, and it's like obviously this is normally in year, if you get a summer Saturday or whatever, it's like you always see the wee red icon because it's like fully booked. Mm-hmm. And I started like every other like summer date that was coming in, it was just saying it was free.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, that's weird. And then I looked at it and I've got barely any over the over the summer period.
Yeah, definitely this year, like it's been spring and autumn. Like I'm on my 7th wedding for this year. Like, that was the 7th wedding I shot on Saturday. And I've got 2 more this week as well. So that'll take me to 9 before May, which I think is quite a busy start to the year. It has like that's usually kind of normally reserved. I don't know if that is definitely more ahead because usually things do start off in May. But I don't have more than 4 weddings in any one month this year, so I'm down on weddings this year. However, this month, all of my inquiries, every single one of my inquiries for this month, from this month, have been from between July and September, for this year. Mm. That's just the way that my business seems to work. So that will grow, if I do convert them. Obviously, a lot of the July ones I'm turning away because I'm on maternity. It's paternity. I always get maternity and paternity mixed up.
Yeah, your paternity
leave. So, but yeah, it's looking at everything as a whole. Like, I feel pretty relaxed in my business, which is good. It's a good feeling, and it's good because I've got a lot of life stuff coming up, moving house, babies, and stuff. So, yeah. Overall, yeah, feeling pretty good.
Good.
How are you?
Good. Yeah. Same, I guess, situation as you, minus the baby, because we are definitely not having any more children. But just getting everything tied up with the house. We got approved for the mortgage. We sold our flat last week. Thank God I don't need to do any more flat viewings because that was grim.
Yeah.
So yeah, just looking forward to actually getting into the new place, to be honest. Just loads happening, but just excited for the move, to be honest. Like,
yeah.
Because we're up and from the city to essentially like a smaller kind of like seaside kind of coastal town. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, it'll be a change of pace. Change of pace for you. But no, like with kind of the, normally when you're sort of thinking, okay, I need to get all this stuff out, that's a feeling I've not had for a very long time where I'm in this position. So, last night I was looking at my Instagram, looking at my strategies. I got the notepad out from the summit. I started, like, I know I don't do this all the time, but sometimes I just like to just dump a bunch of thoughts into the notepad and just think, right, okay, these are things I want to do. These are actionable steps. And usually when I write those things out, I'm pretty good at sticking to them.
That's what you done last year.
Yeah, I did that last year. And I did it at the start of the year, this year a little bit. They were maybe more podcast based than my business based, but I did it for my business like last night, and I was like, okay, that's a good action plan. So I can see things going in a good direction because I've got a bit of time in April and May to kind of get that all together. So yeah, I feel pretty excited about things.
Good. Well, today, I guess we wanted to talk a little bit about inquiries, the way that we maybe respond to inquiries, and why that I guess that there's definitely like a wrong way to reply to inquiries. There's so many right ways to do it, but there's definitely like a wrong way to do it, and it's something that kind of came up in a kind of mentoring session that we done, and just because a lot of the time what we'll do is when we go and leave an inquiry on someone's website when they kind of get in contact with us, and just to kind of see like what their actual maybe like response is, like what does that communication look like? Because we've came across it on quite a few occasions where we've kind of looked at it and went, I can maybe see why people aren't replying to you. So that's what we wanted to kind of like talk about in this episode, and kind of just like highlight that as, there's definitely some of us are maybe replying to inquiries in an incorrect manner.
If you think about the amount of different ways that people can inquire, you have your inquiry form on your website, you've got a direct email, you've got a DM, a phone call. Like, people do inquire through phone calls. It does happen, but there are so many different ways that people can inquire. And I think if you are going through the whole inquiry form, the fact that you can have like automated replies, like replies that are ready to click and send, that are there to make your life easier, that can actually impact you if you're not necessarily taking their inquiry and using the information they're giving you to the best of its ability. And is your inquiry form fit for purpose? Does it ask the questions that are going to help you convert? And that might sound like, well, of course, what else can we really add? But some people are not asking all the bits of question to minimize the amount of communication between you and your potential couple.
You want to minimize the amount of friction, and like
it's all about friction
and contact points really that they need to make with you to get the information of like, are you free? Is it somewhere you want to shoot? That kind of stuff, The next thing that I always ask is, what is your partner's name? Because getting them involved in the conversation, including them in the form, like sometimes it is just one person doing it, but often when only one person can fill in the form, two people are getting excited about your product. If you can include them in it, it's going to be great for the emails. It just it also saves your bacon a bit. See, when you get onto like the client calls, for instance, and you've got like the other partner that's on the call. And like, I remember I didn't used to ask for the other partner's name. You just be sitting there and you're just like, what's your name? Sorry. Yeah,
this is really awkward, but what is your name? And of course, you're looking at a Zoom call and they can't see who you're pointing to.
Exactly. But like, so you want to just go straight away. Oh, like, hey, like Laura and Katie, or hey, like, Nigel and I don't know, Kate. Like, do you know what I mean? I couldn't think of any other names, but like, you just want to address them by their name. It just like it's just a much better way of like approaching the call. Yeah, everyone's favorite word is their own name. So if you say my name, Katie. If you have that information, goddamn right, you're already on a personal level. So like, and it lets you into their story as well. So like, you're gonna know who your clients are. What else? Another thing that I add to the inquiry form is the phone number. And the reason for this is sometimes in the excitement of emailing you and filling in that inquiry form, they've just double tapped that S. They've added another letter or another character to their email, and it bounces. And you get that dreaded email and you're like, I have absolutely no way, unless of course they put their Instagram thing in, I've got absolutely no way to get in touch with this person. So a simple text. I do have it in the form saying you're happy for me to use this or get you in contact with any of this stuff. That's just an automatic. They click submit, they agree to that. So I can just text them.
I can go on WhatsApp, I can send them a message and say, hey, by the way, you did send me a form, but it's bouncing. Is this your email? And then they go, oh, silly me.
I done that 2 weeks ago, and
Yeah.
then I sent her after it bounced, and then I sent her another message saying, did you get that okay? Crickets.
To be fair, I've got an inquiry just now that hasn't read the email and also hasn't read the WhatsApp. I don't know why. But this is the tactic that I haven't been doing recently. One, because my flat is a tip because I'm moving house. But I would have the email ready to go. And I would also record a WhatsApp video. I would get them on my phone and I would record a video on WhatsApp, just introducing myself, saying thank you so much for the inquiry. Really look forward to the idea of you being at this venue. You basically talking about their thing, about 30 seconds to a minute long. The amount of video responses I got back from the couples was great because now I see their faces. Now I'm engaging in a conversation. The conversation can continue on WhatsApp, and then I can get them on a call. It breaks down that wall, and it lets you in front of a lot of other people that aren't necessarily doing that.
Yeah.
I haven't done
that's actually one for like another. I think we could probably do a whole other podcast on that because, you know, we done it at a business that I was the head of sales for just prior to joining Deliveroo. Changed up the outreach to video messages, and the response rate was incredibly higher.
100% higher.
Yeah. So I think we'll do another pod on just that whole other topic because it's a really good point. But there's a way to do it right.
Way to do it right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and I think it needs a bit more time spent on it.
Yeah.
But no, it's a great point because, you know, things do happen, and sometimes it can be dead obvious because it could be like Gmail, like an extra L. So you can fix that dead easily, you know, but sometimes it's not as obvious because it could just be the spelling of everything before the at or whatever. So, no, that's a really good point.
Mm-hmm. Right. Let's take a little break and we'll be back with some more inquiry form shenanigans after this. Still delivering your wedding films by USB?
Ew.
We use VidFlow, the sleekest platform for delivering your wedding films. It makes your couples feel like they've got their own private Netflix.
Plus, with their white labeling service, you can customize everything from the branding to the custom domain so you can make it super personal.
Want to wow your clients? Use the code TWVP10 to get 10% off all pro plans, including white labeling service.
Head on over to vidflow.co today and level up your wedding film delivery experience.
Let's talk about backlog.
Woo!
Editing piles up fast and is overwhelming.
That's why we use brideandgroom.video, a wedding editing company that delivers stunning wedding films faster without compromising on quality.
If you're looking for an editor that's going to match your unique style so it feels like you've made them, you found them.
Use code TWVP75 at checkout to get £75 off your first order and try out their service.
Clear your backlog and grow your business. Try brideandgroom.video today.
Hasta la vista, backlog.
I ask about the photographer if they booked one.
Yep, another good. Yep,
because what I like to do is look at what style they've looked for. If it's someone I've worked with in the past who is a similar kind of style to me, that's great. And it also kind of shows like sometimes they don't have a photographer, which then leads you to go, okay, video is something that's really important to them. They're looking at a videographer for a photographer. So it's a good inside bit of information to kind of find out what it is they're thinking about when it comes to their wedding, what sort of vibes they're looking for.
Also gives you a good indication of what their content budget is as well.
Absolutely.
You know? So which is another good.
Not to be completely off put by that, because some people do prefer videography to photography.
Yeah, and vice versa.
Yeah.
But like it just gives you a good indicator. It's like a good, okay, you know, so they've booked this person, you know. And the venue kind of gives you a little bit of an indicator there sometimes in that as well. But it's another good bit of information to get in the contact form. Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Well, in terms of core information, that's it. The other thing I do have in my form is obviously give me the story. Like, and that can be as vague as them putting in, are you available, to what I had last month where I got like, it was a novel. Mm-hmm. And it was to the extreme, but what that gave me was the content for the call to talk to them about. Now I do phrase that with tell me your story, right? I could be more elaborate with that. I could figure out more ways to do that. But you're going to need a space, a box for them to put in a bit of information, whether or not they want to use that as we are, are you free? What's your prices? Or you can find out how into you they are with that point.
Yeah, I was going to say that it can be like a really, really good opportunity for you to gauge like how much are they into video, how much are they into you, how excited are they about their wedding, but also they can give you like, not all, but some people will give you like a lot of info in that kind of like, so I've got the same kind of thing. It's just like, tell me as much as you want about the wedding, tell me what's the vibe, etc. And some will be just, just wanting to know about prices or, and that's a bit of an indicator of, okay, they're just window shopping or whatever. But then other ones that just give you this big screeds and screeds of information, this is how we met, this is how excited we are for the wedding. And it's a good indicator. If it's just good to get as much information as possible from them. Because you can use that.
100%.
On the email columns and on the actual call and stuff like that as well.
If they give you enough information, it's going to give you so much that you can use to make it personal to them. And the last two items on my form, which I do think are very important. First of all, it's if you found me through someone else, who was it? So a referral is so good so that you can, thank a supplier. That's always going to go well. Or if it's a previous couple, you're going to get vibes of what that was like. You're going to be able to see, okay, they've seen this work for me. This is what they like. And the last thing is the source.
Just thinking if it was like a complete red flag wedding, it's like abort. I am booked.
Unavailable. But yeah, and the last one is the source for your analytics, for your marketing. Yeah. It's important to know where that inquiry came from. Did it come from Google, Instagram, or referral? You're going to want to know that information.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean that part's super important, just so that you know, like, okay, where it's actually it's quite good that question, because holistically, like at the end of the year, you can go and have a look and you can see, okay, I absolutely pounded Instagram last year. How does that match up from my previous years when I maybe wasn't quite as on it? And I guarantee you, your Instagram blades will be up.
Yeah. But you can find the weaknesses, can't you? Like,
but you can also look at what's just maybe like not as fruitful maybe as it was in previous years. Do you know what I mean? So I'm more talking about people here that maybe have been doing this for quite some time, that probably Facebook was like the number one lead source for years, and probably now for a lot of people it's not quite as much as it used to be. There's still loads of people that get loads of bookings out of Facebook. Not saying that it's completely dead, I'm just saying that for the majority of leads, I would assume for most people, if they're doing what most people do at the moment, which is spend a lot of time on, for instance, Instagram, they're probably going to see that it's heavily more weighted towards Instagram generally, because that's just where couples are. So that's a good question, just to be able to ascertain, okay, what is working for me in my business and maybe what needs a bit of work, because if your Google inquiries are like really, really low, maybe you need to spend a wee bit of time on your SEO. Maybe you need to look at maybe doing some, like, I don't know, blogging or something, just to try and appear in some kind of search hits. Another question I actually ask, which I've asked recently, which is, what is your approximate budget for videography?
This is something I haven't included, but I can see it in some forums. And I guess a lot of people might shy away from that question because they might think, well, what if people don't know their budget and they just put £1,000 in or something, and that's like a lot lower than what you would charge? You're going to see that and go, it's probably not worth like treating this with the same respect as I would normally, because they're not my client.
And I would strongly encourage you not to do that. For a couple of reasons. Like, one, the reason why I have that question in the contact form is just so that I can get a bit of a gauge as to like where their headspace is at when it comes to the prices of videography. Because not everybody, a lot of people still think that we are like half the price of like photography, which is mind-boggling considering how much more work we actually have to do. But I think historically, because videography was quite, years ago, but certainly it wasn't maybe made to the same level that films are now, because it was just, fall about. It was very, just camera, capture the day, one camera, big camera, shoulder rig or whatever. Whereas now it's a lot more intricate, it's, cinematic, we're building out story and so on and so forth. And it's like, it's certainly a lot more polished than it was maybe 10 years ago. But by asking that question, it just gets you a bit of a gauge as to where their head and where their expectation is at. So that, if you go and hit them with, okay, I started $3,000 and they put in, we were expecting to pay 500 or whatever, then, they're probably going to fall off their seat. But that doesn't mean though that just because they've put in like 1,500 or whatever, or 1,000, that you will still, you're not going to get the booking. Because I know for a fact that I have sent off my packages to clients that have put in maybe like a budget of £1,000. They've still booked me at like $3,000.
Yeah,
so,
and I've had the same.
Yeah.
It's based on the conversation that you have afterwards.
Exactly.
When you educate them on what it is that you can offer, like maybe they didn't understand the power of a long form film.
Yeah.
So they are inquiring because they don't necessarily know. They've never really hired a videographer before, so they don't know it. It's a question there, but a question to you is: anywhere on your website, do you say the average investment is this? Because I always think if I was to include that, I would go. I understand not many people know their budget, but to give an example, the average investment is this.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people will tell you to do that, and I can totally see why you would, and I think most people probably should, just to weed out, for instance, the people that there is absolutely no hope in them ever being able to meet that price point of where your packages actually start from. I don't put it on there because I kind of like back myself enough to go, I think if I can get on to, for instance, like, get a bit of chat with them and get a bit of an intro and, be that initially over email communication, and then I send them my brochure or whatever, I feel like I've got personally, I feel like I've maybe got like a higher chance to try and get them to come on the phone with me. And if I can get them to come on the phone with me, for instance, on a video call, then my conversion rate is really, really high when I get them onto the phone. So I should be able to secure it. So I don't do that because I feel like I can not in all cases, but I feel like I have a good chance to like win them over so that it becomes less of a logical decision, be that monetary, to an emotional decision, be that we love you, we want to book you kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So that's the reason that I don't have it on, but I can see why it would be more beneficial for people to have that on so that it weeds out the people that, I'm not going to, inverted commas, time wasters. It's not time wasters, it's just that they have no idea what the budget is, and people have a finite budget. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, personally, I don't have that one.
I think there's something else that we both have on our form that we forgot to mention as well, which is really powerful because it's going to give you a better connection to who they are before the call and potentially during your whole relationship with them. And that's their Instagram handle. Like, what are they up to on social media?
You can get like a lot of info from that if they've got like a public profile, if they got a dog,
The dog is always the
cat,
winner.
a dog or a cat and stuff like that. It's another talking point that you can talk about.
I'm convinced I got a booking from a couple last month when on the Zoom I brought up their dog Buddy that I'd seen on Instagram. They're like, you know about Buddy? He's like, oh yeah, I'm a stalker. I was like, Buddy, we have the same dog. We both have lurchers. Like we had lurcher chat.
But that's it, because you're finding common ground, aren't you? Which is a big part of like making or getting them to make that kind of like decision to book you. So yeah, the Instagram handle is like a really, really good one. It just gives you a little bit of a window into like their life, because obviously with videography, we're not always the first to get booked. Like quite often we can be a little bit late down. So you could be at the stage where they're buying their wedding dress or something. You can go, oh, seen you just bought your wedding dress. How was that? It's another, just shows that you're taking an interest in them whilst they're obviously also taking an interest in you. And it helps you be a bit more personal. So that's everything that we have in our contact forms. After this quick break, we're going to just talk more about what we can do with that information. Lumix have just announced their brand new S1R II hybrid camera. And wouldn't it be great to try before you buy?
Well, why not take advantage of the Lumix loan scheme, where you'll get the opportunity to hire a camera for up to 48 hours.
Imagine that. 48 hours, try before you buy, you get to test the camera out and make sure it's the right one for you.
And when it comes to buying that camera, you can use the code TWVP at the Lumix store to get 10% off your purchase.
So to take advantage of the Lumix loan scheme, head on over to the Lumix store now. all that information should give you loads to speak to the clients about. You're not going to get like in that section that we talked about, it gives them the free reign to talk about, what's the vibe and, what's the wedding all about. Yeah, it can be a bit limited. It depends on how much they want to share. But there's enough in there, that you've got venue, you've got date, you've got both of their names, Instagram handle, hopefully, but again, not everybody puts that on. Not everybody has Instagram. And then hopefully they've put in a little bit of information in there.
Yeah, I think it's about finding the balance between asking enough but not asking too much. And I know in the past, I definitely asked more than I needed to because I thought, wouldn't it be great to have all this information? But from a client's point of view, that could be overwhelming.
Yeah, and to be honest, like, do you need everything that we talked about in there? Probably not, right? Okay, you probably don't need, you don't 100% need the Instagram handle. You don't need to have the videography budget. Like, there are some things in there that if you wanted to trim it right down, you totally could. Mm-hmm. Just works for me.
Yeah.
And it depends on what works for you. But the core things that you definitely need in there, venue, the date, their name, I would say partner's name, just so that you can address both of them. And what was the other thing?
Story.
And then just a bit, if they want a section for them to leave, give
them the opportunity
to put it in
to sell themselves to you.
Exactly. But the reason why that's really important, and it kind of came up on, like I said, a mentoring session, was that we sent obviously like an inquiry off as we normally do, and looked at it and put in like a bunch of information deliberately just about, really excited to see my little boy in his kilt or whatever, and really can't wait to see my husband at the bottom of the aisle. I know he's going to cry or whatever. So you put information in there. One thing we did notice was there was no venue in there whatsoever, but the reply back from the person was there wasn't much in the way of like niceties. There was no comment on about seeing the little boy or talking about, the groom or the husband to be. It was just, thanks for inquiring. Where is it you're getting married?
It was very business, wasn't it? It was just like a simple transactional email.
Yeah.
Without any sauce, which, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, well, do I really need that? If you're talking about having a connection with someone on the day, like this is their wedding day, they're going to maybe not everyone thinks like this. I certainly know I didn't pick a photographer until I found someone that I enjoyed hanging out with. That was my choice. And I don't think I'm alone. I think other people think like that. Yes, you might be behind the scenes, you might just be filming it. Like, what does your personality matter? But you're going to be remembered for the rest of their life because you were the person that hung out with them the most on their wedding day.
Yep. Be human. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that we also forget, because it's a big deal getting invited to somebody's wedding, like to hang about with them all day. Like, it's one of the most special days of their life, which we can sometimes forget because we're constantly at weddings. So it's like, it's the next wedding. But for these people, as we've talked about before in the pod, that's their one day.
That's their one day.
It's
so easy to get desensitized to that.
Massively. But yeah, like basically not commenting. Like if that client has given you all of this information, for instance, in that little section, they've given you loads and you don't use any of that information. You don't go back with any of it. What was the point in them filling it out in the first place? Mm-hmm. There was no point. Absolutely none. You might as well just get rid of it because it's useless.
Yeah.
Just bin it if you're not going to use the information that they give you.
Think about the amount of time. Like, they could have quite easily sent to you, are you free on this date? They could have put in as much effort as you've done.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't have where the venue is that they're getting married, just add it in because it saves you another question to ask them.
Mm-hmm. You can talk about your experience at that venue.
Because then that for instance, that particular email could have changed from, yes, I'm free. If you wanted to keep it dead business still, which I would highly recommend that you don't, you could be, yes, I'm free. Would you like to arrange a call? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's probably not going to win you any bookings either, to be honest. It might get you some, but not very many. But I think that also the thing to remember here is that you are going up against, let's say, a minimum of maybe like 3 on average other videographers, maybe a bit less, depends. But it could be many more. I mean, I know that like we've seen it in the for instance, whenever we post a referral in some of the Facebook groups, I'm like, oh, I've already got that one.
Yeah.
Oh, I've already got that one. So they're, like, we know that clients are still like shopping around. So if you're just going back with this really, really cold, because let's face it, it's quite cold, like a cold response of, yeah, I'm free. Do you want to arrange a call? That's another one that I've seen before in that as well. It's like, do you want to arrange a call? Well, no, do you want to know a bit about like what's the prices or whatever, or just give them a bit of something.
I think some people think that work speaks for themselves, like, and they've been to the website, they've seen the work, they must have fallen in love with the work to get an inquiry. But
it doesn't always work like that, and especially not like if you have a absolutely killer website that is just like screaming personality or whatever. They're the people that can probably get away with it. Do you know what I mean? Like if it's like absolutely niche down and people can just go on the website, spend 10 minutes on it and they're like, oh my God, like the copy on here is amazing. But we also know that the majority of people, their websites are not quite to that. Because maybe you've like, for instance, like what we did when we first started, like it was all DIY. It was done by ourselves. We're not copywriters. So like we're not going to be able to make someone fall in love with us just from the words that are on the website. A copywriter might be able to do that, but we're probably not going to be able to do that.
I mean, if anyone out there can comfortably say that they have converted 100% of the inquiries that they've received, then we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Liar!
Obviously, people are shopping around. You are not the only person they're inquiring with. And there was something about, it might not necessarily be about how you approach it. Maybe someone else was just a better fit for them, or maybe a better budget or something. A lot of people will blame it on the budget. It's definitely not about that. But you are absolutely missing out on some because some people communicated better than you. And if you found that your inquiry to conversion is lower than it ever has been, it's probably because you haven't looked at this process in a while.
Yeah.
And there is ways to improve it. And people who have made changes and adapted to how people are talking to them, they are seeing the benefits of this.
Because I think the thing to remember is, like, in most cases, when it's like a bride and groom that are getting married, it's going to be in most cases, certainly for me, it's been the bride that inquires. So, like, because guys are, generally, they're not always the most, like, depends. You can get some that are, like, right into the planning of the weddings, but a lot of the time, it can often be, like, the bride, for instance. So like I'm always quite conscious of that fact about just trying to like, not be dead, like for instance, like masculine in my approach to like an email reply, for instance, and be all like quite straight matter of fact. 'Cause I'll ask loads of questions and I'll like kind of like show enthusiasm, for instance, in the messages that I send back. Just to like imply like a warmth and somebody that's like also excited about weddings kind of thing.
You're very good at mirroring.
Yeah.
Text. So if someone uses a lot of emojis in their talk, in their text, you use a lot of emojis. So I've noticed that with you. You're quite good at mirroring. People.
Yeah, that's a sales thing. I think like that's just the sales thing and that coming out. But yeah, the mirroring side of things. That's exactly it. That's exactly what you should be doing. So. Me right now. But it's totally true. Like, because it's stop doing it. You're irritating the life out of me. It's like looking in a mirror. So yeah, like the emoji thing is like a prime example, because that's when I start like dishing out. I'll dish out like the wee kind of orange love hearts, and I'll like. It's the same, for instance, when you go into like the actual call with a couple and stuff like that as well. Like, if they are, if they're like dead excitable and a bit bubbly, I'll be the exact same because it helps. It's just a sales thing as well. But so yeah, so doing things like that also helps you stand out because, like we talked about before, I've seen a lot of people's like email replies, DM replies, and yeah, there could be a bit of work that's done on that front. See, to be honest, right, because not everybody is great at sales, not everybody's comfortable, like, for instance, like mirroring or whatever, and not everybody like knows like the best way to do things. Another good tool to use is here, ChatGPT, to go, how. This is my response to this inquiry. How does it sound? And ChatGPT will tell you straight, and they'll be like, this sounds cold AF.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sort it out.
Yeah.
Or they'll be like, this is great. You're matching the tone. You sound excited about the wedding. You know, and don't just, that's not me saying here, for instance, don't just take whatever ChatGPT gives you, because sometimes it can sound like a robot, and we all know, we can see when people are like posting certain things that you can tell it's been ChatGPT'd, you know, so just like take it as maybe like a gauge of, you know, because it will maybe try and rewrite something for you. If it does look good and it sounds good, fair enough, use it, but just like look at it and just don't just take exactly what it spits out at you, but you can take it as like a reference point or a gauge as to like, how is my reply doing?
Yeah, and I think what not to do with ChatGPT is fill up like your email templates with, you know, what you would normally say to people, and just, that's a great response to everyone.
Yeah.
Like, you do want to personalize these, because if someone has gone to the lengths of telling you their story, you should absolutely use all that information. I ChatGPT'd my template with the core bits of information that I want, but it's always my first introduction paragraph that is always handwritten, like always written by me. I'll always personalize that section, and then with what I want them to do afterwards is kind of, you know, it's my process. But that first section is always there, and ChatGPT is great to emphasize your chat or to make it easier to read. Is a lot of people might say, oh, but that like takes all of your personality out of it. It's taking what you've written and making it easier to read, which is exactly the same as what word processors do. They'll like give you a red squiggly line if something doesn't make sense. Like
Grammarly.
Grammarly is
same,
something. Yes,
it's the same thing. Grammarly is AI.
So it's using tools just to make it easier to read, and I think that's it. If it's a free to use, make use of it.
Yeah, but you can also like, you can put tell it to read your website and figure out what your tone of voice is, like especially if you've had a copywriter on there and that matches how maybe you would reply to emails, you can use that to figure it out. But yeah, like just essentially what the crux of it is just make sure there's like a warmth to your reply, and it's not just like you said there before, very transactional, and it's just a business transaction, because this is not a business transaction for them. This is a really, really big deal. So for you just to go with a really, really, you know, cold, short email back, for instance, you know, where is it you're getting married? Do you want to arrange a call? That's not exciting. Like that doesn't make me want to book you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that I'll take it back to when I did book my photographer for my wedding. Like we looked for 4 months, found loads of people who were great at what they did, but none of them
replied to you like Gary did.
Well, we met him face to face, to be fair, which would probably helped. I did meet a few. To be fair, I did go to a few shows, and even though we had great conversations with them, the communication afterwards wasn't great. His communication online is exactly who he is.
Yeah,
and it was great.
Gary's quite unashamedly himself.
He is. That sold
Which
it for
he
me.
should continue to be.
Yeah.
He's a good egg.
He's a good egg. We love Gary.
Love you guys.
Gary, our photographer at the summit,
yes.
By the way, if you were there. So if you enjoy your pictures, make sure you're tagging _ at @goodluckwolf. No, at _ goodluckwolf. But the personality came across. It was the language he used. It was how he presented himself online. Everything about it just said, yes, I'm booking this guy.
Yeah.
And that's how your responses should be online. It shouldn't be generic. It should get people excited, because you are up against others who are going to put more effort in than a copy-paste job.
Yeah, exactly. And they should like, there's nothing wrong with having like, because I've got a templated email for like when someone inquires, because there's certain information on there that is the same for every email that gets sent out, because there's some like key information in there. But for there's also bits in there that you need to personalize. You know, if they've given you the venue and it's a venue you shoot at all the time, you know, tell them that I love, you know, like I do it, for instance, with Kinmount, and I'll be like, oh, I just absolutely love going down to the bathing house. It's so good, especially if you get a golden hour, because it's implying that, you know, you've been to that venue, you know what you're doing. So that's a plus point, because, you know, some couples get a bit uptight about, they want to make sure that you've been there before. Or if you haven't been there before, do you know what, I've been dying to shoot there. I watch videos there all the time, and, you know, whatever, just show enthusiasm for wanting to shoot their wedding, and it will pay dividends in bookings.
Do you send any examples, if they have filled in the venue, do you send any examples of work you've done there previously?
Yeah, sometimes if it's recent. If it's quite recent. So one of my favourite weddings, for instance, like from last year, was at a venue, Gilmerton House. I had an inquiry 3 weeks ago for Gilmerton House again. So I just sent them that and I said, I shot one of my favourite weddings of last year at this venue. Absolutely loved it. There you go. Because it's built around a video. I love that film. And yeah, they loved it. And they were like, this is the exact same vibe that we're going for. I was like, ka-ching.
Yeah.
Book me, please. And they did. So again, it's good because, they just wanted, it's another like tick in the box like for you, because they're like, he knows the venue, he loves the venue, and we've just watched a film there and it was class.
Yeah.
So that's like tick, tick, tick.
Nothing's going to excite them more about seeing their venue and seeing their potential videographer working at their venue.
However,
so they can imagine it.
Yeah, exactly. However, if I'd replied back to them and went, I'm free for your date. Gilmerton's a nice venue. Do you want to arrange a call?
No, thank you.
I mean, I wouldn't. I'd be like, nah, you're all right, man. Cheers.
It's like there's been nothing to like. Imagine breaking the ice. When you get in the call, you've already got that rapport going. So it's
exactly, because that helps massively.
Yeah.
Like getting all these, even like the little bits of information. Like I said before, if you're asking, if you've got that box there and you're doing nothing with the information, I mean, just what's the point of being there? But like I will, because you will get things and they'll be like, my dog's going to be walking down the aisle, and I'm like, where's the pup? What's the pup's name? I don't have a dog. Would love a dog, but like I'm still a pet person. So like
whenever someone has a dog, I send pictures of my dog.
Yeah.
So like, and I'm like, pictures of your dog, or it's not true.
But even like when so like another example, right, was the one from the wedding that I had last week, Broxmouth, and they had a little girl, and I remember from the call that we had that Charlotte and Rob had mentioned, she loves like mini eggs and Milky Bar buttons. So I was like on the motorway, and I think it was the stop before, and I was like, oh crap, Milky Bar buttons, because I'd put it in my CRM. And I'd thought I'd reminded myself, but then I was like, oh crap, I forgot. So I went into the service station, picked up some Milky Bar buttons, and then arrived. And again, it's just another little point where they're like, oh, you remembered.
Yeah,
like,
I did the same with some chocolate fingers. I came to the bridal prep, and like the bridesmaid was upset. Like they were saying, we've got this funny story about chocolate fingers. I'm like, I guess it's chocolate fingers. Yeah.
There's loads of stuff that you can do there. And again, it just shows that it's that little bit of extra customer service, client service, and that helps set you apart from the rest of the people that they're inquiring with.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. A lot of the stuff that we're talking about, it sounds like it should be glaringly obvious. Like obviously you should put an effort into a reply, but I think a lot of people still find themselves falling back into, I've got a template there, I'll just send that back because I don't quite know what else to say. Like what is it that's causing people to just hit that reply button without really putting the emphasis into it?
I mean, that could be a load of different things, because you could have, everybody's got stuff going on in their life. Mm-hmm. Like everybody's, stuff can happen, people can get unwell, it can get stressful. Anybody that listens to the podcast knows I have 3 children. It gets wild. Mm-hmm. Like, you can be right in the depths of summertime and you are just shooting, editing, not feeling like you're getting a break. Like, stuff happens. But then I think you also need to kind of keep into the back of your mind that right now you are booking things for the future as well. So, like, just make sure that you dedicate the right amount of time to responding and replying to people in the manner that you should, to give yourself the best possible chance to get that booking or get that couple onto a call so that you have an even bigger chance of getting the booking. Because your future self will thank you for it. And like that's still a really, really important part. And yes, you can just send that templated email off. And yes, you might get some inquiries, but I guarantee any money, if you took a pool of like 50 inquiries and you just sent the template email off and you had another pool of the same inquiries, but you sent it off a more personalized email off to them, I guarantee you that the personalized one will have a incredibly higher response rate than just the templated one. And there's like, I'll die on that hill. So hopefully that gives you some food for thought on what you should be doing really when it comes to emails and inquiries for clients when they come in via your contact form. If you have any questions or you want to reach out, send us a voice note in the DMs, drop us a message, and we can have a chat with you about it, or any other questions you want to ask.
Yeah. The inquiry form is one of the most important things that you can get right on your website. And I hope that this chat has given you some inspiration if there's anything you need to tweak. So yeah, thanks for listening to That Wedding Videographer podcast. I've been Jace.
I've been Danny.
We'll see you next week.